Hi again, folks. This is your serial cynic. Um, last time I did a video, the last video I did was done here in my daughter's room, so please excuse what you're seeing up here on the wall. Today's topic is going to be a controversial topic, and I'm probably not going to win a lot of fans by some of the things I may say in this video, but I guess you can say I'm not either for or against, so to speak. I just want to just bring some clarity, I hope, to a rather controversial topic that's been raging for a few years now. But recently, it has raised its head again because of a Vox video that's been going viral across Facebook. And the topic is about Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Now, I guess you can say, in some respects, rightfully so, the Dominican Republic has been castigated in few years for their treatment of their neighbors over in Haiti. Or I should say treatment of people of Haitian descent living within their borders. I shouldn't say over in Haiti. That's an independent country over there. But before we can get started, I'm going to get back to this, but let me just explain this for those who are probably not even aware where this area of the world is. Haiti and the Dominican Republic share one island known as Hispaniola. Hispaniola, of course, Hispania, Spain, because Spain first colonized that island and founded the oldest European city, or city that was founded by Europeans on this side of the world, in what is known as Santo Domingo, or what today we know as Santo Domingo. They inhabit the same island. Haiti is to the west. The Dominican Republic, the larger of the two countries, is to the east. There are, to the west of Puerto Rico, to the east of Cuba, to the northeast of Jamaica. Okay? So that's what those two islands are. Those two countries, I should say, sharing one island, just like you have the island of St. Martin. You have French St. Martin to the north and Dutch St. Martin to the south. So now that we know these two countries are sharing one island, we can then proceed with understanding some more about them. But let us go back to where the issue comes in. A lot of black folks have come to know more about the Dominican Republic. Not so much because of their beautiful beaches, their nice resorts, and so forth. Yes, there are black people that know the Dominican Republic for that. But a lot of people have come to know about the Dominican Republic and Dominicans because they have come in contact with them, like here in New York City, over in Washington Heights, you have a huge Dominican population over there. Or they've come to know them because of something a little bit more controversial. There are a lot of Dominicans who do not refer to themselves as black. They look like me. They have my complexion. Of course, I've been mistaken. My wife has been mistaken for Dominicans. So they have my complexion. But in their country, or amongst them, they do not refer to themselves as black first or black at all. They would say, no, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. And it kind of puzzles you because you look around and say, well, Dominican is not a race. What are you? You look like me. You have the same complexion. You're not black? No, I'm Dominican. And I remember a few years ago there was some controversy with this. I don't remember who the baseball player was, but his teammate, an African American, said something. And it was like, I guess he was questioning his Dominican teammate. And the Dominican teammate was saying, no, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. but the Dominican teammate looked just like this African American in terms of complexion, maybe even darker. It's like, no, I'm not Dominican. I mean, I'm not black. I'm Dominican. So it was a big joke and all this type of stuff. Like, look at this guy. This guy is black and called himself Dominican. This guy doesn't even know. Look at his own skin color. So this notion or this belief, this statement, you hear it from the mouths of various Dominicans. I had my son who went to school with Dominicans right here in New York City, just up the street. And he would come home and tell me, oh, yeah, this guy in my class, he's black like me. His complexion is like mine, but he keeps saying he's Dominican, he's not black. And it's just always baffled a lot of black people. So then there's this belief that Dominicans hate themselves. They hate their black skin. And they try to further themselves away from it as far as possible. So they don't refer to themselves as black, they refer to themselves as Dominicans. Or they try to cling more to their European ancestry than their obvious African ancestry. And this has caused a lot of problems for a lot of other black people who are proud of who they are, proud of their skin color, pro-black, and they're looking at these other black people who look just like them, but is denying their black skin, so to speak. So this has caused a lot of controversy. What has made the Dominicans even more disliked now is the fact that of the two countries sharing that island, Haiti on the western side is far more impoverished than the Dominican Republic, or just in a worse state of affairs than the Dominican Republic. And the Dominicans, not saying all, mind you, but the impression is that they don't care for their neighbors. They don't care for Haitians. Or they look on at the Haitians as being less than them, inferior to them. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're black, but we're Dominicans. And again, that just baffles the mind of a lot of observers, black people looking on. Like, what in the world are they talking about? But when we see this, and when I see the comments on Facebook in different places, a lot of the comments are knee-jerk reactions, just from mere observation, and I could understand why. I'm looking at a black person, denying that they're black and saying they're something else when I'm looking at their skin color, they're black. Now we have to understand a few things here. First of all, this whole black whatever stuff, and the United States pretty much have their own whatever is going on. You could look like a white person. Once you have a drop of black person in you, you're black. The one drop rule, as they call it. So the whole notion of race in this country is different in a place like the Dominican Republic, and it's different in a place like Brazil, where it might be the other way around. You look fairly white. You might have a black person in your family, but you pass off as a white person. Over here, we're trying to find out if you have any black in you, so we can go ahead and say, we don't care if you're white like Lily White. Oh, your great grandfather was black? Well, you're black. So it's different in different places. So a lot of us have been conditioned to look at race in a particular way here in this country, the United States. The Dominican Republic, they look at it somewhat differently. They have their right. They have their own definitions. But in order to more or less understand this whole race thing that goes on amongst them, and the whole conflict between them and their neighbors to the left, to the west, you have to pretty much understand the history of these two countries. They share the same island, and they share a common history, but in places it's very different. And just not to make this video too long, let me try to see if I can brush through this. And I'm doing a lot of this just from memory. So please forgive me if I don't have my facts correct or in the right place or have them backed up or mixed up. So I'm going strictly on memory. I don't have videos to show you anything right now or for you to follow along or to read. So please bear with me and you can go ahead and look the stuff up for yourself. The first thing is Haiti came under the control of the French. The other side of the island, which used to be known as Santo Domingo, the entire side of that island. Today's the capital city of the Dominican Republic, but back then it was called Santo Domingo. So the eastern side was under the control of the Spanish. The French and the Spanish both had African free labor on both sides of the island. The thing, though, is that the French were more ruthless in the way that they treated their slave population, their enslaved population, that is. The Spanish, yeah, they were bad, but not as bad. So what happened with both sides is that the French side, sugarcane drove that economy. Not to say like you didn't have sugarcane in the eastern side in Santo Domingo, but sugarcane drove the economy, and it made France very rich, to the point where Haiti, which back then was known as Saint-Domingue, profited France, made France just wealthy. And where Saint-Domingue, Haiti, as we know it today, was one of the richest places on earth. In other words, where money was being made, it was worth a lot of money. The French knew what they had, and they drove that machine. They drove that machine. And in order for that machine to move, the slave labor had to push it. So they just brought in a massive amount of Africans. If you dropped dead tomorrow, another one was there to replace you. So it got to the point where there's so many African slaves in Saint-Domingue in relation to the white population that there was a lot of fear and paranoia amongst the white population. And as a result, they instituted some very violent ways of dealing with insubordination, with not obeying, with running away. They were brutal in the way that they put down certain things or rebellion or anything along that line. They did not play. Meanwhile, over on the Spanish side, in Santo Domingo, yes, slavery was going on, but the Spaniards, they didn't really invest a lot of time in that colony. They were making their riches in Cuba, in South America. So the not the Dominican Republic, as I should say back then, Santo Domingo, more or less kind of sailed under the radar. The French over in Saint-Domingue, on the Haiti side, there wasn't too much mixing going on. It was like a clear line. These are black Africans. We are white French people. I'm not saying there wasn't any mixture, but it was more or less like a line there. There wasn't too much mixing going on. So the African enslaved peoples basically reproduce amongst themselves. So it was a strong sense of African over here. Over on the Santo Domingo side, you had white Spaniards allowing the marrying and having children and interbreeding and interacting with the black Africans. They were not being driven into the ground like how the French were driving their enslaved population into the ground over in Santo Domingue, Haiti. Over in Santo Domingo, it was more farming, agriculture, horse riding, raising horses. That's pretty much what the enslaved Africans were doing over there. A lot of them were having children with the white population. Now, Haiti, on the other side, as a lot of people may know, in 1804, 1805, 1804 I think it is, won their independence after a brutal, horrific war for independence, where all of that frustration and anger that built up over all those years of being grinded into the ground, the Haitians rose up, rebelled, and won their independence, brutally massacring the white population that was there, at least those that were left around. And I would say understandably so. A lot of pent-up anger and frustration. They won their independence. Meanwhile, over on the Spanish side, Spain wasn't paying too much attention to the colony over there. So, as Haiti became an independent nation, and they had their leaders, one of their leaders, Pierre Boyer, B-O-Y-E-R, came to power. And one of the fears that Haiti always had was the fact that if the eastern side of the island was still under European control, there was always the risk that the Europeans can come together and use that side of the island as a base and invade the new nation of Haiti and re-enslave the population. That was always one of the fears that the Haitians had, that the Europeans, because France left it out there that, look, man, we're going to come back after you guys. Yeah, you beat us, but we're going to come back after you guys. So Boyer, fearing this, and then you had people over, leaders over in the Santo Domingo side of the island, who wanted to have a unity for their own selfish reasons. They more or less opened the door for Pierre Boyer to come over from Haiti and more or less take over the eastern side of the island and make the island one. So Boyer just more or less just walked into the Dominican Republic with his army, or walked into Santo Domingo with his army, and without a shot being fired, just took over. Now the whole island was united. This would be about somewhere in the middle 1800s, early middle 1800s, probably the 1830s somewhere. Came in, took over. The leaders at the time in Santo Domingo more or less welcomed him in. Come on in. And it's like, hey, now that you're the leader, you're going to make me this, you're going to make me that, you're going to put me at this level, you're going to put me in this position. So the Haitian occupation, as it's called, I guess, in Dominican history, lasted 25 years. I don't remember, but it lasted, I guess, a couple of decades at least. And while the Haitians were there with their army, things didn't always go that smoothly. Dominicans report that there were some massacres here and there. They report that the Haitian army was there and it was like the Dominicans or the people from Santo Domingo had to support them, had to put them up. Tensions, problems going on, to the point where after a while it was like, look, we don't want these Haitians here anymore. A couple of other things that happened. The Haitians, stinging from slavery, wanted nothing to do with white people. Again, understandably so. So when they came over to the eastern side of the island, Boyer went ahead and expelled the Catholic priests. That's white. That's Europeans. I think he shut down the university and the Catholic Church, if I'm not mistaken. That's white. Get rid of them. We don't want them around. This offended a lot of the people in Santo Domingo who like these type of things around, who more or less celebrated or liked their European side of their ancestry. And these type of things angered a lot of Dominicans. And it was around this time there was a shaping of identity to where I'm a Dominican, they're Haitian. Where we're different is the fact that they're black. They're Africans. Their religion is primitive. Look at us. We believe in this white Jesus over here. And all these white saints up on our walls in the Catholic Church. We celebrate that. They are into this dark religion with blood and sacrificing animals. They are that. We are this. They are black. And it started to become this type of a thing where the ultimate goal of a Dominican was not to be black, not to be like them. And the way you distinguish yourself from them is they're black. Look at their dark, dark skin. We're caramel colored. Look at their nappy hair. Look at our long, straight, beautiful hair. Where we decide to side more with the Europeans. Or, let's go even further. We decide to side more with the original peoples, the Tainos, that were here before Africans or Europeans showed up. What we're not going to associate ourselves with is those people over there. They're really African in their animations, Africans in their culture. And we don't want to have nothing to do with that. We don't like them. So we're going to separate ourselves. They're black. And my ultimate goal in life is not to be like them. So it started around that time where it was like this separation. Let's identify as something different from them. But after Boyer died out and all that went past, and the Dominican and Santo Domingo went on to become an independent country that we know today as the Dominican Republic, didn't mean that these things went away. Those tensions were still there. And another thing is, the Haitian side of the island invaded the Dominican side a few times, keeping that tension up, that resentment. So a lot of times when we hear about the Dominicans and their backlash in the way they carry on today, a lot of this is not considered, that they have a lot of a bad taste in their mouth about the Haitians invading their side of the islands, welcomed or unwelcomed, coming over and trying to spread their Africanness on the people. And one thing I forgot to mention, what Pierre Boyer did was, when he took over and united the island, in Philadelphia in the United States at the time, that's where a lot of freed Africans resided. Some of these Africans, some of these descendants of Africans were taken to places like Liberia, Liberia, and I guess Sierra Leone, and founded communities over there. So it was like the United States wanted to know, hey man, what are we going to do with these free black people? You know what? Because remember at the time, there were a lot of Americans, white Americans, who believed that Africans should be free, but a lot of them didn't believe that they were on the same level as white people. So it's like, yeah, okay, they're free, we don't want them around here, so let's go ahead and move them somewhere else. So they took them to Africa, Liberia, and founded communities over there. Meanwhile, Haiti and Boyer noticed this also. And he encouraged some of these, spoke with the church leaders over there and so forth, and it was like, hey, look, have them come down to my country. So what Boyer did, to try to blacken the population, at least on the Dominican side, he went ahead and encouraged them to come down. And he brought them in and settled them in the Samana Peninsula in northern Dominican Republic. And basically said, hey, look, this is your land, start families, do whatever you're doing. With the hopes of these people would mix in, mingling, have children, and darken the population. Try to get rid of all the vestiges of white domination that once took over the island. That's what Boyer did. It kind of worked, but did not work out all that well, because there wasn't too much, and a lot of these freed African Americans picked up and went back to where they came from. But there were some mixtures that took place there. Fast forward 100 years now, roughly. And in the Dominican Republic, a person comes to power by the name of Rafael Trujillo, with the help of the United States. He comes to power. And Rafael Trujillo looked probably just like me. But he had a hatred for this color right here. Legend says that he used to put powder on his face, white powder, when he made his public appearances to appear more white than he was black. And what he did was a reversal of what Boyer did. He turned around and he began to encourage a lot of white people to come to his country to whiten the population. So, when the Holocaust took place in Europe and a lot of Jews were fleeing Europe, hey, come on in, come on in. A lot of Italians, come on in. Germans, come on in. And he tried to whiten the population. He had a dislike for the black skin. And if you're talking about black people, he had a lot of them living on his borders between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. There were a lot of them living on the borders. And somewhat reminiscent of what we're seeing here in the United States with Donald Trump, he didn't want them in his country because there was a threat of, obviously, these people mixing with Dominicans and basically undermining what he was trying to do by bringing a lot of white people. So his reign as leader of the Dominican Republic, part of it was to whiten the population, to discredit anything black, to push aside anything black, to push aside any association with Africa or Africanism, anything to do with that. And you have to keep this one very important thing in mind. Rafael Trujillo wasn't in power for a year or two. He was in power for 30 years, which is a long time when it comes to a world leader. That's kind of rare, unless you're a dictator, which is what he was. That's 30 years of this man influencing the population that grew up during that time. He died in the 1960s, which is not too long ago. But he was around for 30 years to take his racist policies and drill it home into the people of the Dominican Republic, building on the tension that was already there, and basically teaching Dominicans you are not black. So, when you see Dominicans today, their grandparents, their parents were brought up under this man and brainwashed, drilled into their heads that they can look at themselves, but you're not black. And of course, they're going to teach this to their children that you run into. That they look at themselves, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. So you have to understand where they're coming from or where their mindset is or what has influenced them. It's not like they woke up one day and looked at themselves and said, no, this takes brainwashing. This takes indoctrination, which is what took place over 30 years under the reign of Trujillo. Not to mention his hatred for Haitians to the point where he sent his army to the borderline where Haitians used to cross over, and come into the Dominican Republic to work. And there were complaints about amongst the Dominicans, just like you have in the United States. Oh, they're coming over, taking our jobs, taking our women, using up our farmland. Hey, do something about this. Trujillo steps in, and before you know it, 30,000 Haitians were dead because of Trujillo and his orders. So there was this exponential increase of hatred for anything Haitian and anything black. Get rid of them. Keep them over there. Don't let them come over here and infiltrate us. And so you have the Dominican Republic today. And what you're seeing is a residual effect of all those years of history of tension between the two countries. The Haitians are not choir boys in this. It's just that they're on the bad end of the stick right now, and that's what we see, and that's what we know. But if that's all you know, just based on what you just see right now, without understanding the history, you would never understand how these people arrived at the position that they're in right now. Does it make it right for the Dominican Republic to do whatever they're doing to the Haitians? No, I am not saying that it is. But you have to understand the history of these two countries, what went on between the two of them, how they were shaped differently and formed differently on the two European powers. And when those European powers were kicked out or left, how they interacted with one another and what led to the current tensions and problems between them and the various policies that they have about each other. It is not as simple as they're black, they're white, they're this. It's much more complicated than that. Interestingly enough, though, when the Haitian earthquake took place, I think the Dominicans were the first to run over there and assist, open up their doors, open up their borders, and allow help to go in and allow Haitians to come over to be taken care of, to their credit. But yet, there's tension. And for many of us, we just see it at this point. But you have to go back and check the histories of these countries to realize how they arrived at where they are today. It's no easy fix. It's a lot of bad blood. Might take quite a few generations to wash this stuff out. But in short, that's basically what goes on down there. Well, not all Dominicans are into this. There are a lot of Dominicans who are proud of their African heritage. And there are a lot who are not. There are a lot who try to hide it, run from it. But with these DNA results, and that's one of the reasons I started this video, DNA results are coming in. Dominicans are ordering them. And they're noticing, wow, I'm 40% African. I'm 45% African. I'm 55% African. I'm this, that, I am 45% this, 45% African, 45% this, and another percentage of Native Americans. So things may change over time. But for right now, these people are still living in the shadow of a very recent history. And it has shaped the way they look at themselves, they think about each other, and what we see as observers standing on the sideline. Okay? Well, let me upload this video. You guys can talk about it in the comments section. Let's hear what you have to say. Again, it's a controversial topic. You may not agree with me. That's fine. Let's talk about it. Talk to you later.